Hungarian Folk Tales. The Simple Prince. Once upon a time there was a farmer, and the farmer had 3 sons. One of his sons was very simple, and he was the youngest. One day the farmer went into the farmyard and saw that someone had scattered the straw all over the place. So he busied himself and tidied everything up. Then the farmer told his sons, "This can't go on. Someone has to keep the straw in order." On the first night, the eldest son went out to the yard to watch the straw. But the boy became hungry and began to eat. All of a sudden, a tiny mouse appeared and sat staring at the boy. So the boy took off his hat and trapped the mouse, but the mouse vanished. Then the oldest son felt drowsy and he fell fast asleep. And when he woke the following day, he saw that the straw had been thrown around the yard again. The following evening, the middle son went out to guard the straw in the farmyard. He was eating his supper when the mouse appeared. He also tried to catch the mouse with his hat, but the mouse vanished. So the boy went to sleep. And when he woke again the following morning, the straw was messy again. On the third day, it was the youngest son who went to the yard. His elder brothers teased him and insisted that he was too stupid to guard the straw. But young John still went out and sat in the yard. The little mouse appeared and stared at the boy. Then young John saw the mouse and gave it a bite to eat. The little mouse said to him, "Young John, if you are clever and do as I say, the straw will be neat and tidy by morning." A horse comes into the farmyard at night and it kicks the straw around. But you mustn't be afraid. I will give you a bridle and you must throw it around the horse's neck and sit up on its back. So young John did as the mouse had said. When the horse appeared that night, he threw the bridle around its neck and sat high up on its back. The horse tried to run into the straw, but young John held it tight. The horse soon realised that young John was too strong for it and it would never get into the straw. And then all of a sudden, the horse began to speak. "As you were so brave, I shall give you 3 whistles. If you blow one of them, a horse will appear in the blink of an eye with a uniform for you to wear." Then the horse gave him a copper whistle, a silver whistle, and a golden whistle. When he returned home, young John said to his father, "I kept the straw safe, it's still neat and tidy." So then the father addressed his other 2 sons. "You see, you said he was the simplest of you all, and yet he was the only one who managed to guard the straw." The king's beautiful daughter had made up her mind to marry, and she set the following challenge. In front of the castle stood a mighty glass mountain, and on top of that a solitary pine. And on the highest branch there was a slipper that perfectly fit the princess's foot. And the young princess announced that she would marry the man who could bring the slipper back to her. Brave young men from all 4 corners of the land came to try their hand, and young John's brothers went up to the palace to see who would get the slipper. John wanted to join them too, but they refused to take him. Then John had an idea. "You go, my brothers, I shall be there anyway." Then young John blew the copper whistle and a copper horse appeared with a gleaming copper uniform. John put the clothes on, climbed up on the horse and rode towards the glass mountain. When the princess saw him, she sighed and said, "I wish it were him who could pick up my slipper," but he only rode halfway up and back down again. When his brothers got home, they told him what they had seen. "I saw it too, from the top of the wall." His brothers were angry with him and they knocked the wall down to stop him spying on them. The competition continued the following day and his brothers attended again. This time John blew his silver whistle. This time a silver horse appeared with a sparkling silver suit, and when he rode up in front of the palace, the princess was even keener for him to win. But young John only managed to ride halfway up and down again. At home, his brothers told him what they had seen. John said, "I saw it too, from the barn roof." And his jealous brothers burned the old barn down. On the third day, his brothers went again to see the competition. Now John blew the golden whistle, and a golden horse appeared with a glistening golden uniform. The young princess saw him at once. "This is the last day," said the princess. "I hope he will bring my slipper back." John rode all the way up to the top. He picked up the slipper and disappeared over the other side of the mountain, taking the golden slipper with him. The princess was sad because she had no idea where the handsome hussar had gone. Young John returned home. Then his brothers arrived back and told of what they had seen. They said they had seen a brave hussar, better still than the two before, who had ridden up to the top of the glass mountain, picked up the golden slipper and vanished down the other side. And they said the princess looked sad. Then young John said, "I saw everything too from the corner of the house." His brothers were so furious that they knocked the old house down. The king issued a decree that the young man possessing the golden slipper should present himself at the palace at once. But nobody came. Then they began to search the homes of the local people, and they also searched young John's house. "Is there anyone else living here?" they asked the two brothers. "There is another boy, but he is no more than a simple fool." "That is no matter," they said. "We want to see him too." Young John had a little bag that he always carried wherever he went. They searched the bag and found the golden slipper. His brothers were stunned by the sight and they had no idea how he had come to have the princess's slipper. Then they were ordered to take young John to the palace where he was to marry the pretty princess. The king's men asked John where was the suit he was wearing when he picked up the slipper. Then young John blew all three whistles and all three horses appeared with all three suits. Then young John put on the golden uniform and gave the other two to his brothers. Then he presented the slipper to the princess and the wedding festivities began. The wedding party was so very jolly that I think they may still be making merry to this very day. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Little Pooly Dog. Once upon a time, a very, very long time ago, Jesus roamed the earth with St. Peter. They sought shelter for the night and knocked on many doors of many houses, but no one would let them in because they were dressed as lowly beggars. One day they came to the mansion house of a rich landowner. Let us see if these good people will accommodate us for the night." So the two lowly beggars entered the house, where they were made warmly welcome. Their kind hosts made them a hot supper and gave them soft beds to sleep in that night. The next morning they thanked their kind hosts and left to go on their way. And as they left, Jesus said, "Peter, this man is rich and has everything in the world he needs, and yet there is still one vital thing that he lacks. We shall give him the gift of a beautiful baby boy, and we will provide that boy with whatever he needs whenever he asks for it." So the rich man called his servant John, and John overheard what the two beggars had said. Soon the woman of the house became heavy with child. And she gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. Soon after the baby was born, the rich man had to travel to the local village, and his wife stayed at home with their young child. Then John had an idea. He cut the throat of a hen and smeared the red blood around the wife's mouth to make the rich landlord think that she had eaten the child. And then he stole away, taking the child with him. They rode and rode until they came to the town where the king lived. "Here," John said to the boy, "do you see, son, what a splendid palace the king lives in?" "I do, father." "Now ask for a much better one at the other end of the town." And so the boy asked for a palace, and it really was much more spectacular than the one the king owned. The locals soon began to gossip about the magnificent palace that had sprouted out of the ground overnight. Even the king became curious to see for himself, and so he went to the brand new palace and declared that it really was much grander than his own and had everything a man could wish for in a home. The king soon came to like John, and so he let him marry his beautiful daughter. But after the wedding was over, the princess began to question John. "Tell me, John, where did you get this beautiful boy from if you say that you have never been married before? And how come you own such a glorious home? Don't nag me, wife. I shall tell you everything one day." One day, when the boy was grown, he arrived home from school in a horse-drawn carriage. His wife told John that she would not live with him for a day longer if he did not tell her from where he got the boy and the palace. And so John began to explain. As the two of them were talking, John said to his wife, "We forgot to tell the coachman to take the boy home." And as they opened the door, they saw that the boy had been standing outside and heard every word they had said. They called him to eat, but instead the boy went down to the stables and told the coachman to saddle him a horse as he planned to leave. When the horse was saddled, he told his father, "Now, John, you should turn into a black pooly dog and follow me." Then the boy, who had no name, left for home. By evening, he arrived at a mayor's house, where he asked for shelter for the night. The mayor and his wife made the boy supper, but when they offered food to his pooly dog, he told them not to. Instead, he gave the little dog coal to eat. In fact, the coal was still aflame from the fire. The mayor said, "I have never seen anything like it in my life that a prince should feed a fine dog with burning coal." "Mayor, have you ever heard of a person being buried alive?" "Yes, I have. And did it happen far from this place?" "It's a long ride by horse from here." In the morning, the prince awoke and again fed the pooly dog with burning coal. And he rode until he eventually arrived at a second village. Here again he sought shelter with the local mayor. They fed him a fine meal, and again he asked for burning coal to feed his pooly dog. The mayor said, "I have never heard of such a thing before. How is it that such a fine dog eats hot coals?" "Yes, but have you ever heard, Mayor, of a person being buried alive?" "I have, and it happened not far from here. If you ride fast, you will soon be there." So after a good night's sleep, the prince continued his journey. He arrived in his own village the next day at noon, where again he sought shelter with the local mayor. They fed him a fine meal, and again he asked for burning coal to feed his pooly dog. "I have never heard of such a thing before. How is it that such a fine dog eats hot coals?" "Yes, but have you ever heard, Mayor, of a person being buried alive?" "Yes, I have, and it happened here." "Is the man still alive who buried the woman alive?" "Yes, he is." "Then please, Mayor, come with me." Then they went to see the landlord. But he had become so poor during the last 16 years that all he had was a pile of burning coal in the middle of his house, and nothing more. The prince strode up to the pile of coal and gave a piece to his pooly dog to eat. "I have never heard of such a thing before. How is it that such a fine dog eats hot coals?" "Yes, but have you ever heard of a person being buried alive?" "Yes, it happened to be my wife." "Could you show me where she was buried?" "I was not in the cemetery, so I don't know where they buried her." "That is such a shame. Is there a man or woman alive who attended that funeral?" "Yes, there is." "Go then and call those people here." So off the landowner went and called his neighbours. Then they went to the cemetery, and the neighbours told the prince which grave was his mother's. As the boy stopped in front of the grave, he said, "Dark wooden coffin, come up to the light." And the coffin came up at once. "Open your lid, coffin." The lid of the coffin sprang open. His mother was still alive in the coffin, and she was sewing a shirt for her son. Then he took his mother by her arm and led her to his father. "Well, father, do you recognize her as your wife?" "Yes, I do. Pooly dog, you must turn back into John at once." And the pooly dog turned back into John. "Do you recognize this man as your servant?" "Yes." "Do you recognize me as your son?" "Yes." That was why my dear mother had to suffer for 16 long years under the ground. "John, take the horse, ride home, and live a happy life with your wife." The boy stayed with his father, and they became 7 times richer than ever before. And they all lived happily ever after. You may think this a tale, but this story is true. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Two Old Friends. Once upon a time there was a poor man. He was very poor and had a lot of children. It was near Christmas time and they had nothing to eat at home. So he had the idea to go out into the forest and collect nuts. Out he went and collected half a sack of nuts. He then took the nuts to the town, where he planned to sell them. As he got close to the town, he met an old friend. "Good morning, old friend." "Good morning, old friend. Where are you going?" "I've got some nuts in this sack. I thought I might exchange them for some food for the children. Christmas is here and we have nothing to eat at home." "I've got half a sack of poppy seeds and I also have a lot of children. I would like to exchange it as we don't have anything to eat at home either." "Look, old friend, let's exchange the sacks without looking at what's inside." And they quickly exchanged sacks. Then one of the old friends arrived home. "Well, children, I got half a sack of nuts in exchange for that half a sack of ashes. I shall pour them out for you to eat." He emptied the sack, and it was full of oak apples. What a man! He cheated me. He will pay for this. The other old friend also arrived home. "Wife, look, I brought half a sack of poppy seeds for that half a sack of oak apples." The children were so excited that they danced around the table. The wife brought out a giant bowl. "Pour those poppy seeds out." Poured them out, but they were ashes. What a man! Why did he cheat me? So he set off to the town to meet his old friend. They both arrived and began to threaten each other with sticks. What a man! Why did you cheat me? They began to fight, but after a while, one of them began to laugh. Why did you cheat me? We could never cheat each other. Let's join forces and work together. A rich man gave them each a job and employed them for the last 3 days of the year. When the 3 days were up, they went to the man and asked for their wages. The rich man gave the order to bring each of them a plate full of gold. They were both very happy. They both got their wages and they both set off home. They were poor, but at the same time, they were cunning men. Look, old friend, we should go back to the pit where the gold was kept and we can take more of it during the night. So they took an empty sack and went back. How will we go down there? It looks very deep. So they fastened their belts together and one of them lowered the other man down into the pit. The one in the pit quickly gathered up as much gold as he could. Let me know when the sack is full. I'll pull it up first and then I'll pull you up. But the man in the pit had a better idea. If I send the gold up, he'll run away. I have to stay down here, but then they'll catch me. He put a lot of gold into the sack, but he did not fill it up. Then he climbed into the sack with the gold. Now you can pull. As they were nearing the forest, the man in the sack said, "Put me down, old friend. I know I must be heavy." "Oh, you are here too? Of course, I didn't want to stay down there. Let's have a rest. I'm very tired. Very well, let's have a rest. The man was so tired that he sat down and fell fast asleep. So the other man picked the sack up and began to run away. When he awoke, the other man had gone. What can I do? He's taken it now. Very well. Then he cut a stick, tied a thread to it, and cracked it like a whip. Get on with you! And he made the noises of an ox cart. The other man heard the noises. Just in time. I'm so tired. I shall put my sack on that cart too. Then he saw his old friend. Old friend, we could never cheat each other. No, we couldn't. Let's have a rest, old friend. You must be tired too. I really am very tired. Then they had a rest. Now the one who had taken the sack fell fast asleep. The other man saw that his old friend was fast asleep, and he took the sack and ran all the way home. There he told his wife, "Put this gold quickly in a box. Take the hoe, come with me to the cemetery, bury me, and if my old friend comes to see me, tell him I am dead." So they went to the cemetery. The woman carefully buried him under a thin layer of soil so that he would come to no harm. Then she returned home, where she held her head as if she was crying. When the other man awoke, he could not find his friend. He knew that he must have gone home, and so he hurried to his house. "Good evening, dear lady." "Good evening, kind sir," she said in her saddest voice. "What's the matter? Why are you so sad? Where is my old friend?" "Your old friend? He died. I have just come home from the cemetery." "Poor friend. I'm really sorry that I couldn't attend his funeral. Dear lady, lend me a hoe and I'll go and tidy up his grave." "No need for that." "It's tidy enough." "It's an old friend's duty to tidy up his old friend's grave." So they went to the cemetery. The man saw the fresh grave and didn't dig with a hoe, but started to stamp about like a bull, clawing at the soil. "Moo, moo, moo," he said, and he hit the ground with the hoe. "Stop that bull," said a voice from the grave. "If you dig me up, my old friend will find me." "Moo, moo, moo," the other man said again, and he got hard to work with the hoe. "Stop it, bull. My old friend will find me." "I've already found you, old friend. Come out." Oh, well, we could never cheat each other. No, we never could. Then they went home, divided the gold between both families, and had a very merry Christmas.